Good afternoon, good people. This is Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, and this is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, where we bring you real life real estate solutions. And today I have a guest, famous, infamous, world-renowned, major player in the game, very seasoned real estate investor. I mean, I can go on and on and on about some of his accomplishments, and not to mention award-winning photojournalist. This gentleman travels all over the country doing film and picture for so many different people. Some of you may know him. One or two of you may not. So to introduce to some and present to others, my man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Walil Archer. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me today.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, real quick, I have to take us back out. I was just told that I didn't do my intro right, so we're gonna have to get it right. My team is keeping me in line. Let me see. Let me make sure I do it right. Where is it? I don't see it. I don't see it. Y'all gonna maybe do it. Y'all don't help me get it right. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is for post-production purposes. You know what that is. All right, hang tight with us. We'll be right back after this. All right, good stuff, good stuff. We are back. Let me make sure I turn all these other devices down. Again, with us today is Mr. Walil Archer, world-renowned. I'm gonna say world-renowned. You know around the world. Real estate investor, photojournalist, major player, seasoned investor, doing the things that you do, man. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it. And talk about some of your great accomplishments and why I want to be like you when I grow up.
Okay, again, my name is Walil Archer. Thanks once again for having me on your show today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I started real estate investing in March of 1998, and I'm more of a buy and hold property manager. Some people say landlord, but I prefer to be called as a property manager. And I just started buying one property after another property after another property. I found out some keywords like refinance, home equity line of credit. And once I learned the concept, I was off to the races. I learned how to better screen tenants. I learned how to put good quality tenants in the property. And as long as they kept paying, I quickly paid off all my mortgages. So now I'm debt free. All my portfolio is owned outright. So now I'm in a different position where my strategy was I wasn't really raising a rent. For the most part, I put them in at a good price, locked them in, kept them happy, put a team around me as far as the maintenance, the repairs, and we just kept making money after money after money. Minimum turnover, minimum evictions. It just was a cash cow.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So you said you've been doing so you've been around like 20 plus years doing this. So I know you're well seasoned in what you're doing. And I don't know how my devices continue to go off, but so you said you're a property manager, not a landlord. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the difference and how you differentiate the two?
It's more so inside. When people say, "Oh my God, the landlord's at the door," I don't like that. Nobody's lord. The landlord is almost like they put you above them, and without them, I don't make the money. So it's an even exchange.
Absolutely.
You're my client. To me, you're my client. I'm the property manager, and again, I'm nobody's lord. I don't want that title. I don't want that responsibility. So it's more so inside for myself.
Okay, good. I mean, and that's a good conscious way of looking at it. You want to treat people as equals in many cases, even though they're, paying you, you're providing a service and making sure they're living comfortably. So that's a great way to look at it. I might have to make sure I write that down. I might have to change my title. Some people like to call it being the Lord of the land. But as far as I know, there's only one Lord that's Lord of the land. So
Exactly. Don't want that responsibility.
oh man, I know, right? I know, right? So let me ask you, what made you get into real estate? Like why real estate? Why was that something that you did?
It's funny because when I was, say, 8, 9, or 10, and I was playing Monopoly, and I realized once I got Boardwalk and Park Place, I owned the board. Ever since then, I wanted to get into real estate, and I always wanted to be, quote unquote, a landlord because I realized how lucrative it was, and then I realized the residual income. The first comes around so fast.
You're
I
right.
mean, it's like rent due again, and they paying again and again and again and again. And I'm the type of landlord, let's fix it and be done with it. The roof leaking, let's put a whole new roof on, we done. Hot water tank, put a new hot water tank, we done. Replace them toilets, we done. And once you got that quality tenant in there, it's really no headache. The way I structured it, I set them up with Wells Fargo. I'm a big advocate for Wells Fargo because they've been good to me. And when I started with them, they was Wachovia, they was First Union, they was a bunch of other banks.
Right.
Put all my tenants up with account numbers. So what they do is they deposit their own money into the account, and it gives me leisure if they ever late. Which most of my tenants, believe it or not, they don't be late. But it's a leisure. Everything's documented. I don't have to be available. I don't have to be accessible. If they let you go, they email me. I shoot over to the electrician. The electrician reach out to them. They coordinate everything. They have my credit card number on file. Once the tenant approve it, they charge the credit card. Like it's a streamless process.
Wow. And I imagine it will require something like that. I mean, because you do several other things, right? And many people understand the quote unquote concept of having multiple streams of income. But I believe for the things that you do and what you've accomplished in your career, even in the real estate basically has been somewhat of a means to an end for you. Because I believe, if I'm correct, you love doing photo shoots or you love doing your photo work. And to have a streamlined business like your real estate business, not interrupting doing what you like to do most. I mean, am I describing that correctly?
Pretty close. The real estate, I love the real estate because it allowed me to provide housing for people that look like me. So when I got into it, I wanted to provide housing for low income, single moms, families getting off the ground, getting started, young family. So that was what my passion was, and I became good at it. So that's what pushed me over to the photojournalist side because I really had a lot of free time. I'm calling to check on the tenants. They're like, we already paid the rent. You don't need me to do nothing. No, stop calling. I'm like, well, I'm bored. So I bought more houses, but after a while, for me, I only wanted to scale, but so high. At some point, just hit your ceiling, and it's like, okay, I don't have enough properties. Because at the end of the day, you still got to pay taxes. You still got to pay insurance. It's still an expense with it. So at some point, you cap it off. So it's like, all right, well, let me just go back into the photojournalist side, finish doing that. So that I'm doing both hand in hand.
Great stuff. So, and we were talking a little bit earlier, and this is something I want to really get into about the differences in the areas that you look to invest in. So you got your start. Did you get your start here in Georgia, or where'd you get your start investing?
My first investment property was in Philadelphia in March of 1998 as a residential. I ventured out into some commercial. I ventured out into some mixed-use properties, but initially residential properties, single-family residential properties in Philadelphia.
Okay. And so I imagine Philadelphia is where you're originally from.
Correct.
Okay. So in doing what you did in Philadelphia, like, what was your trek to come to Atlanta? Like, you bought up a whole block in Philadelphia, and you saved a couple of dollars to come and buy some in Atlanta.
Well, actually, I started a cell phone store and a variety store. So I had different businesses, a hair salon, barbershop. So I had different businesses.
Okay.
And in my cell phone store or my barbershop, people will always come in and say, Walil, if you go to Atlanta, you would be more successful because it's a city of entrepreneurs. And I kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. So I came down here in 2006, looked around and fell in love. Everywhere I went, I seen successful entrepreneurs as Black folks. which is now like up Philadelphia. Philadelphia, they more so workers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in 2007, I closed on the house, and I just went back and forth. The only difference is I could get more return in Philadelphia as far as like the cap rate, return on my investments versus Atlanta is a smaller cap rate.
Okay. And let's talk about that. We chatted a little bit about that before we jumped on. Let's talk about that. Let's tell the folks what cap rate is. Some people may not be familiar with the term. Let's tell them what that is and how the differences, how big of a difference in the cap rates and how much it can make, towards what's the difference it can make for your bottom line.
Well, I'll give you a good example. On average, depending on what area you're in, the average house in Philadelphia is roughly 50,000. Of course, you could find higher. Of course, you could find a little less. But on average, pretty much 50 to 75 would be a good point. Versus Atlanta, I would say right around 250. So then you're talking 75,000 versus 250. So when they go by the 1% rule, if you spend 250,000, now you're looking to collect $250 in rent, $2,500 a month in rent, which is a little challenging for people.
Right.
Whereas if you buy a house for 75,000, you only need $750. One person can pretty much pay $750.
Right.
At 2,500, if the couple break up, you could have a problem with the rent coming in.
Definitely. That's interesting. And and just for the sake of understanding that, you and I understand the Midwest, basically, as you mentioned earlier, are primarily blue collar, auto workers. Many of them, they're still the industrial, factories and plants and things like that in the Midwest. I mean, there's some industries that are moving in, that have been moving in rapidly, especially in Detroit. But for the most part, as you and I understand it, there are more people that have jobs and, go to work as opposed to being entrepreneurs. And the difference that makes is, from based on what I'm seeing in the transitions that are happening is, the values of the properties, some of them are, the properties are lower, right? Where you said in Philadelphia, average property is about 50,000. In some areas of Detroit, some of them are about 40,000. Right. And the major difference is we can almost collect the same amount of rent. Right. As you mentioned, the $75,000 house, you only need $750. But in Detroit, some houses you can buy for 40,000 or maybe 50,000 and still get that $900 to $1,000 in rent. So that's a significant difference as opposed to, here, both of you and I are in Georgia, where getting that kind of, I mean, rents are higher. Rents have been on the rise. However, that they're few and far between where you're going to find those where people can actually pay that.
Right. Yeah. And then that's where the turnover comes in. So the higher the rent, the more the people moving every year. They trying to, for whatever reason, they start moving more. So if you keep the rent at a certain threshold, they tend to stay longer.
Got it. So tell me about some of your experience, a good or bad or indifferent experiences in real estate. How you got started, how things are going now.
Well, I go with an educational piece. I had a tenant one time. I let it fill out the rental application. I would ask for your basic stuff, pay stubs, bank statements, utility bills, etc., from your previous landlord. I seen that she bounced a lot of checks prior to renting from me. So when I rented to her, I knew she was going to bounce checks because that was a pattern.
Wow.
I always allowed 1 or 2 because I had a portfolio of properties. I had a bunch of properties. So I always allowed 1 or 2 the grace of moving in and working with them. I called it my charity case. Inside to myself, I just call it my charity case. Try to help them get on their feet. So I always had my strong tenants who I knew was going to pay no matter what. And then I have my charity cases where I knew they may not pay. Another thing, the difference between, for me being a licensed realtor, which I'm not, I'm an investor, I can play a little bit differently, still legally, but it's the gray area because I'm not bound to the licensed law. So for example, I had a house, it was $600 a month, and the tenant had bad credit. His girlfriend wasn't working. So I told him no. However, if you pay 6 months, I'll let you move in. That's the deposit, 6 months. He really came back with 6 months.
Mm.
Right. It really was just to get him out of here. But when he came back with the 6 months, it was like, okay, cool. Now I have to be honest. Now here's the harder part of it. I got a letter from some law enforcement saying that there was drug activity going on in the house. So
Wow.
he was selling
Wow.
drugs. So eventually he went to jail. So now what do I do? But I had that cushion in 6 months when he moved in. 1 month's rent, 5 months deposit. Then his girlfriend went to jail. So now she's in jail, he's in jail. So now that 5 months is down to 4 months, which is down to
Wow.
3 months. But because I had that cushion, it allowed me to kind of wait and see which way it would go. Not
Okay.
having experience with that, I didn't go into the property, I didn't clean up the property, so I didn't anticipate bugs, mice. I didn't anticipate on that.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 months, 6 months later, without cleaning, you could imagine all the rodents that was going on with that property.
Wow. Wow.
Needless to say, I just sold the property and was done with it. Sold it as is, where it is, and I was done with it.
I can
But
imagine.
fortunately, for me, I always got good properties. I have commercial vehicles. Say we buy houses. So I was in the phone books, resale houses, because I started before we really had Google.
Mm.
So I was advertised. I was on billboards. So I was the go-to guy in case of a death, a divorce. You would contact my company, and we would buy the houses. So we just buy houses left to right.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. Now, Willow, you keep that under wraps, real cool. Now, I didn't know you was doing major stuff like that, but I imagine for the portfolio that you have, you had to make some moves to make it happen. So in advertising like that, what was your like? What made you decide to go into doing the advertisement? And did you find that it worked really well when you decided to go that way?
That's a great question. And it's funny because the ones who looked in the phone book, because back then you had, again, before Google, we talking the 80s, 90s, we talking way back when.
Right. Right.
We had Yellow Book, which was one book. We had Verizon, which was the second book. And then we had B2B, which was business book. So I
Mm,
advertised in all 3 books.
okay.
And the billboard, I had to advertise on the billboard. That I had 2 commercial vehicles. I had my team driving those around, or I would drive around. And again, we buy houses, so everybody in the neighborhood would know. So whenever we go to fix a house or go to show a house, they would see that vehicle. They would see that vehicle, and it just kept getting those phone calls. We just kept buying and buying and buying and buying.
Right, right. So we'll put this in context for the folks. Like they need to understand, like it wasn't inexpensive to advertise in the yellow pages, right? It wasn't inexpensive to get a billboard. These things were really, relatively expensive, depending on the situation or what you was trying to accomplish. So we're talking. I remember a yellow page ad, a one liner was like $500, right? And then I imagine the billboard, you pay what, $10,000, $15,000, depending upon how long you have it up. So that the return on investment of something like that had to make sense in order for you to make those types of investments for the advertising.
The
Uh,
fortunate thing was I had a unique situation. I was in South Philadelphia, where regentrification came. I knew it was
okay,
coming. I knew it was long haul, but I knew it was coming. We close to
mm,
Center City, we close to downtown, right near South Street. So I knew they wanted this neighborhood. So I just kept investing, 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 investing. And then as the tenants kept paying, because I had the long-term tenants, I was blessed with long-term tenants, the money just kept coming in. So I just kept promoting and promoting. And the more you promoted, the more credibility it gave you. The more
absolutely.
credibility you gave you, the hick of the trust. So people are going to definitely call you to buy the house because you done build
Mhm.
up that trust factor. I had an office, and the office been there Monday through Saturday. We was open from 9 to 7. We never late, never closed. We open 9 to 7 Monday through Saturday. You knew where to find us. We're answering the phone when you call. We're there.
Wow, wow. So for something like that, let me ask you, how important is marketing and being responsive, as you mentioned, answering the phone and stuff like that and being available? How important would you say that is in today's market, with the different technologies that we have in place?
Today is totally different. Responsive is very important. It could kill your business.
Absolutely.
So you have to decide. At some point, we scale back to 10 to 4 because we just grow so much. We didn't need to. be there no longer 9 to 7. So then
Mm.
once we retrain people 10 to 4, and then after hours, I had my cell phone number. They had a number to call for emergency after hours. But in the beginning, you got to grind it out. You have to be responsive. You have to answer every call that comes in. Back then, we had answer machines. People didn't
Right.
leave messages. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have texting. So when that phone rang, you have to answer it. If they get the answer machine, you just lost them. They're going to call somebody else to buy the house. So you
Real
got to
stuff.
answer the phone calls.
Yeah. Man, and you know, I'm just going through a time warp myself, thinking about how things were. Now, you know, even from a perspective of, you know, having to send faxes, right? We had to send faxes for offers and things like that, you know, and we like some of us, like, people get on email lists nowadays. I was on a fax list for people to send me properties. So I get like 20, 30 faxes a day. And we're talking not the electronic kind. I'm talking about the actual printed out kind. I got like 20, 30 pages, you know, things coming through the fax machine at one time. So, you know, it's a
And
lot.
black and white. That's the funny part.
Yeah, exactly.
And black and white. So you really don't know what you're looking at. You
That's
got to
true.
get out and go see them properties.
And not to mention, we didn't have GPS back then. So once that fax came through, I had to print out what was it called back then? MapQuest.
Yep.
It either had the map book, you know, had a map book I used to use to go on the grid and all that. Had the map book and then MapQuest, and MapQuest got us lost all the time. But yeah, you know, just to look at the differences of how technology and the times have changed to help us get to the point where we can do things more smoothly, you know, get things done more quickly. It says a lot about, you know, where we are now in the times. So let me ask you this: as times transition, like there was several softwares, and you know, I'm actually, you probably are familiar with Haynes Crisscross and all those. As time transitions from what you did before, like what are some of the common things that you had to do to get to being able to buy properties? I mean, I know once Google came around and GPS and all these new technologies came into place, you no longer had to really go the yellow pages route and the billboards and things like that. I don't know if you still use those, but what was kind of the transition that you remember or you recall transitioning into to continue to do the level of investing that you were doing?
Once Google and everything came out, I was already established. I was already at my cap. I didn't want to just keep scaling up, keep scaling up, keep scaling up. I already reached my quota. So then that's
Okay.
when I
Okay.
ventured
Good.
into the only thing I will add is I moved more commercial side. So now I'm more into commercial strip malls, retail shopping centers, because now that's considered triple net being zero landlord responsibility. So
Absolutely.
now some people call it mailbox money, where they just mail you a check. You go about your business every month. You just go
Absolutely.
pick up your check, which is completely hands off, less responsibilities.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, and I would say, I would certainly say that, you know, the technology and times have changed with being able to scale has made it a lot easier. I mean, like you said, you went from residential to strip malls and things like that. So with that now, like with what you're doing now, and you said at a point you had reached your cap, are you still actively looking for properties to invest in, or have you decided that you're not going to do it anymore, or actively purchase properties, or where you are right now in your career?
Good question. Right now, just strip malls. So right
Okay.
now, and I'm kind of looking at the numbers on that because now brick and mortar is getting a little obsolete. So
Mm,
that's a little hairy. So the numbers have to make more sense to give me that
mhm.
cushion. But definitely
Okay.
strip malls, more commercial.
Okay. Okay. And you know, just to give folks understanding, you said, you know, brick and mortar is becoming obsolete. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, with more online stores, online businesses,
Excuse me. Mhm.
with Amazon, they really pushing you towards shopping online.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
now retail's a little risky because if they don't make the money, they can't pay the rent.
This is
If
true.
they don't have that traffic they need, they can't pay their rent. So retail has to rely on shipping as well as they have to really be creative. They can't just wait on foot traffic anymore.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And would you say that that would be a now because of course I'm familiar with it. A lot of the different places have decided to pull out. Um, would it be wise to think that if you purchase a strip mall for renting, and I'm trying not to go too high level so that people will miss what we're talking about. For if you purchase a strip mall for renting, would you have in mind the type of tenant that you'd want to put in some place like that? Would it be retail or or your restaurant or those types of places?
Well, you got two options when you look at retail. You could do like a Family Dollar and Dollar General. They
Mm-hmm.
have great credit, triple B minus credit score. So they're going to pay, they corporately funded. So if you wanted to get started, if you had the capital, that's a good way to get started. Now, I have to be honest, the cap rate range from 5% to 7%. And again, cap rate paid a return on your investment. So if you're okay with 5%, 7%, some people may or may not, because you can do better in the stock market in some instances.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you also want to get into more of a strip mall, then you want to look for an anchor store. So maybe it's Allstate, State Farm. So at least you got that Little Caesars who's going to pay, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got the other 2 or 3 mom and pops. So again, you still got the almost guaranteed anchor store as well as some mom and pops there, so that it gives you a balance.
Wow, wow. And that's real life real estate investing. I mean, and just looking at it from a bigger picture perspective, right? Now, in the world that we live in, many people look at real estate investing as a way to make money, right? Many people want to jump in because I'll be honest, what I've seen in so many cases that it's been given a sort of an idea that it's something simple or something easy, right? Like people get in, they say, "Oh, well, real estate is the way to make money." But what people don't often realize is the processes that come with making the money in real estate. Like you talked about a huge transition from the times that we were in before with advertising and the yellow pages and billboards and things like that. And then looking at the times of where we are now. Even from those times to now, while the process is simple, it becomes a bit more detailed because of all the checks and balances that have to be put in place. And I think oftentimes people miss when we say you're going to invest in real estate, like you got to get insurance, you got to pay taxes, you got to finally fill out a contract, you got to deal with sellers, you got to deal with buyers. I mean, there's so many different moving parts in the business of real estate investing. I say many people get the misconception or misunderstanding of how detailed it is. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, like, what do you think in the world that we live in today, like in our current times? What do you think the level of education people should have as it relates to when they want to get started in real estate investing?
Wow, because now it's different because there's so much misguided information, if you will.
Mm.
No money down, no credit,
Talk
bad
about it.
credit.
Talk about it. You mean that stuff's not true, man?
No shade to anyone that way, no shade. But you gotta ask yourself, how are you able to really make money with no money? How are you
Mm.
really able to get into something with bad credit? You have to ask
Mm.
yourself that. So Ikra means read in Arabic. My biggest thing is read, 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 read. And that's what
Mhm.
always avoided me and saved me from mistakes. I always read stuff. Do
Yeah.
the research. But people, they go to what's easy. Oh, I can do
Mm.
that. No credit. I'm gonna flip houses.
Right.
But you don't know the ins and outs. And then also for me, I always plan the long term. Things that I do when I get into it, I get into a long term.
Mm-hmm.
I don't spend a lot of time talking about it. I spend time in the reading it, putting the plan in action, and working through the plan.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
now with the way things are, I don't know if I could do it because then I had to really work. I had to put it in the yellow pages. I had to market. I had to advertise. I was also on the pharmacy bags. So when you get your prescriptions, I'm on the pharmacy bags. I
Wow.
was in the shopping carts. So when you push your shopping carts around, you're seeing me. So for the first 2-3 years, all the money was coming in was going back out in advertising. I never
Mm.
thought about it not working, but what else was I going to do? I wasn't going to go get a 9 to 5. I knew this is all I wanted to do. I seen the potential into the revenue that could come in. So this is what I stuck with. But now with social media, again, with all the misguided information, with the technology, and then people want to get rich quick and they run in real estate. And it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really, you may get one or two quick deals and get lucky, but long haul, I don't know real estate just to be that simple. Not for me.
Right. So, and I want to get into the education piece because I'm big on the education of people understanding what it's like. So you said there's a lot of misinformation or misconceptions. So let's talk about that. Why can't I get into real estate with no money and no credit? Like, why can't I do it? Everybody says that I can. Why can't I?
I'll tell you what I did. I went to Temple University. I'm graduating from Temple University, and I took the real estate courses. So at least I know the ins and outs. I learned the laws. I learned what you can do. I learned the education in real estate. Once you get the education, you have a foundation. You have the knowledge. You have the experience, or the knowledge to go with the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why can't you? I don't know how you could get into real estate with no money, because I mean, I hear the concepts, partner up with somebody that has the money, partners. I've never done it that way. I don't know it that way, so I kind of can't really touch on it because I know how to really do it the way that works for me. Other ways could work, but good luck. Be careful and read. But most importantly, if we go back to education, definitely take the courses. Take the courses. Go to class, read, pass the test, study, learn it first. Learn real estate before you just jump into real estate chasing the money. You got to learn because you could lose a lot of money. You could file bankruptcy. I know a lot of people lost a lot of money. You got to learn the terms. You got to learn how to file a bank application. You have to learn how to get lines of credit. You have to learn all that stuff. Home equity line of credit. And you could put one thing wrong on the application and get your application denied just from one thing. So you have to learn this stuff. You have to go to school and learn it. And then you get it. I say you go to school, learn it, then you get a coach. But I think people take shortcuts. They don't go to get the basic education. They think the coach going to teach them everything, which is not really possible because real estate has way too many moving parts. And then we get to in terms of real estate, what do you want to do with real estate? You want to do residential? You want to do land? You want to do office space? What do you want to do? You want to flip? You want to hold? It's just too many moving parts in real estate.
Real stuff. And I'm inclined to agree. Now, let me say this. As far as the no money, no credit, let me say this. For the first 16 years of my real estate investing career, I used none of my own money and none of my own credit. But I will say I studied for 2 years before I even attempted to pull the trigger on that. Right. I got the Carlton sheets, no money down, no down payment code program. And as you mentioned, a lot of what I did was partner with other people who had those resources. So I used their resources to be able to get into buying houses, buying, flipping, the whole deal. Did all of that. Again, with none of my own money or credit. But what I realized is if I didn't have my own skin in the game, I was always going to be relying on someone to make a deal happen for me. Right. And it's okay to have those resources where you can have a partner to partner with to close deals. But when you're standing still and with your arms folded and twiddling your thumbs and you can't do anything without anybody else, that's not a good feeling to have. Right. So from the perspective of getting your credit in order and getting your own cash, you can do deals anytime you choose as opposed to having to wait for someone else. Right. So I get it. I mean, and I'm, like I said, I'm big on the education piece. And I know that the misconception that many people have about the whole no money, no credit is that they can just show up with not even the knowledge. They can just show up and get a check for $30,000. Like, but what did you do? Right. What did you learn? Who did you talk to? And who told you could do this with nobody on credit? Let's go talk to them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I agree, man. A lot of people try to go at it being misguided. And now with the tools, we'll call them tools, YouTube and Google and all these things, people will build their whole real estate business around what they learned on YouTube and Google. And in those scenarios, most of that information either A is outdated or B is not organized. Right. So you go and try to fill out, like there's somebody that teaches how to wholesale houses for free. Okay. You can teach people how to wholesale houses for free. But when they learn how to get a house under contract and sell that contract, and then that buyer decides they want to go around them to buy from the seller, what YouTube video do you go to watch for that?
Right.
Where's the YouTube video that teaches you how to fill out the contract? Or where's the YouTube video that teaches you what a HUD statement is and what it says? I mean, there are probably some YouTube videos that explain these things, but a lot of these things often shift, and people rely on, hey, the attorney's office sent me the closing statement, so it's got to be right. But when they got a processing fee and a doc prep fee and a title adjustment fee, a title turn the page upside down fee,
loan origination fees,
like all these things, all these things that are in that HUD statement that many people don't take the time to educate themselves on, so they don't know if they're winning or losing. You see, so those are the things that I personally believe that, like you said, definitely read. There are tons of books that have been written where people can actually learn the processes. But again, as you mentioned as well, get someone to coach you through the process, because of all the moving parts, things are ever changing, right? I mean, I don't know if you still study, being that doing what you're doing, but I've been doing this over 20 years. I still study every day, right? We were talking about the Bank of America program, the loan program that they're doing. That's something that can be a game changer for how we do what we do, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
So, but yeah, I agree with you.
Now, one thing I do want to add, because I guess I didn't really touch on it. For me, I bought my house back in 91, 92. My primary property was my first property. And I didn't know what PMI was, but I knew every month I had to pay this PMI.
Right.
When I found out PMI stood for private mortgage insurance, I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm paying more money. So if I default, the bank make money. Well, if you pay down 80% or 20%, then the PMI go away. So what I started doing was double it up on my payments. Once I got comfortable with doubling it up on my payments, I left it that way. So now the PMI gone. Before I knew it, my house is paid off.
Right.
So by the time my house got paid off, that's when I found out refinance your house. And that's how I actually got started. So I refinanced my house. I took the equity out of my primary property and bought my first investment property. Which my first investment property was a mixed-use property, which I put my office on the first floor, and then I had an apartment on the second floor. So the rent from the second floor really paid for everything. And whatever my office did do or didn't do, it didn't matter. So I said, well, wait a minute. If I was able to do that, I went back to Wells Fargo. I borrowed money from Wells Fargo again on that property, which was the mixed-use property. So now I brought another investment property, put that tenant in there. June of 1998, they still in that same property. So they still paying rent to this day. Went and brought another one. So I just kept doing it and just kept doing it. And then I just started doubling up on payments. And that's how I actually got started. So for me, that's the concept that I know. And I just, got skin in the game, as we say. And, I kept my hands in it. I knew the tenants. They knew me. They knew who to call if they couldn't get anything done. I was accessible. I wasn't hands off. I treated them like people. I treated them good. I looked at them as family because, again, without their revenue, I can't pay my bills. So not because I'm a great guy. I need your money to pay the bills. So I want y'all happy because I don't want you late. Not because I'm a great guy. I don't want you late. So they was happy. I was happy, and it just worked. And I just kept buying and kept buying and kept buying. And that's how it worked for me. So when they said no money down, because I do remember watching one of your tapes or shows where you said that you were actually, boots on the ground with it.
Yes.
Most people don't want to be boots on the ground. They just want to show up, no education, no knowledge, no experience. I'm here. Where's the check for 30,000? And it don't really work that way.
It's amazing, man, that people still will look at real estate investing. You hear, you and I, we hear this all the time, and many people that know about money and how it works, um, here real estate investing or investing in real estate is one of the ways the top wealthy people make money. And when I hear that, excuse me, and I think about how someone believes that they can become a multimillionaire just by showing up with no knowledge, no credit, no money, no any of that. And I'm just like, how does that work out? You know, that's like getting blood from a turnip, as they used to say, right? If you don't put something in, you don't get something out. At least when I showed up in the beginning, what I used as a strategy over and over again was my experience and my knowledge. That's how I was able to partner with the people who had the resources to be able for me to be able to accomplish what I accomplished. But at the same time, I had to have something in to get something out. Right. And nowadays, there are people that are showing up with nothing. And they're like, well, why should I invest in the education to learn how to do something that everybody else is doing for free? I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah, that education saved you so many mistakes. It saves you
Oh,
so
yeah.
many mistakes. Because again, I could pretty much look at that credit I could pretty much look at your rental application without running your credit. I'm still going to
Mm,
run the credit because you have to. You have to kind of keep everything the same. Otherwise, it's discrimination. So you run everybody credit.
right.
However, once you file the application, I could pretty much look at it and see if you're a good candidate or not. Did you skip spots? What did you put on there? Then when
Mhm.
I talk to you, I already know. And then if I'm on the fence, let me do a drive-by and see how you keeping your current property. Because again, I'm more of
Mm,
a, if you're doing it from a tenant standpoint, more long-term, let me see how you keeping your property. Then
gross
let
up.
me call your references, whether it's your previous landlord or your family members, whoever you put down there as your references.
Mm, mm.
And then you look at the credit because the credit could be scaled. Somebody could lose their job tomorrow. So then what? But you
Right.
still have stability. How long have you been on that job? So even using that, that's still experience to know what you want as a tenant, what you don't want as a tenant. If they moving
Mm.
every year, if they moved every year, that's not a tenant for you unless you just want to keep turning over properties.
Wow.
But
Wow.
if they stayed at the last house 5 years, the house prior to that for 7 years, chances are they're going to stay with you at least 5 or 7 years. Just a rule of
Mm.
thumb.
Right.
And I
Right.
just became real good at screening tenants.
And again, that's something right there that many people wouldn't have a clue about, right?
Right.
And something like that. I mean, that's probably at least a $10,000 gem that you just dropped, because you look at from the lifespan of someone potentially becoming a property manager or landlord. Uh, if they don't have that kind of knowledge and experience, like when I first started renting properties, I had no idea, right? I know what I read in the book and how I could potentially do it, but I didn't have the in-depth knowledge about screening tenants and doing all that. Excuse me. Wow. So I was in one of those situations where the tenant showed up and they said, I got 3 months of rent. I'm like, y'all breathing? Give me the money. And after 3 months, I never got any money from them again.
Of course.
Right. And that happened to me more than once, I'll be honest, because, my idea was I got the money, I'm good. But not realizing that, after a certain time, if that money expires, they're not going to, some of them, well, in my case, they didn't continue to pay. Right. One guy even tried to turn the gas on illegally. And he had a problem. He said, what did he tell me? He had a problem because we didn't open the vent. I think there was the gas valve, I'm sorry, on the stove. So he can know how to connect it. I'm like, why in the world would we do that? You have the gas on illegally and you want us to open the gas valve on the stove for you to connect it? I'm like, no, there's nobody gonna do that. But I mean, in my inexperience, I didn't know a lot of these different things. And when I had a mentor approach me, in my ignorance at the time, I didn't think that the investment that he asked me to make was worth investing. And after that, I mean, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, to I mean, multiple six figures, if not just cash that I lost, but opportunity, the cost of the opportunity by missing out on a simple $5,000 investment, right? I was just thinking $5,000 is too much to pay. I had it, I had the money. It's just I didn't think that it was enough. I thought it was too much to pay because of what I thought I knew. And now, even 20 plus years doing this, I continue to invest in my education because I know how valuable it is. I'll spend $10,000 to learn something that'll save me $100,000, right? Even if it's just the simplest thing, but most people don't look at it like that.
Correct. Education is priceless.
Definitely. So let's talk about so what would you say to the new investor, right? From a perspective of, kind of what we talked about. If they're they're wanting to get started, right? They have no experience, no knowledge or anything. What would you advise for them to do? Like what steps would you tell them to take to get to a level like yourself?
I'm gonna use the Walil Archer method because you have a lot of ways you can go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, get your credit straight.
Yes.
Credit is important because I bank with Wells Fargo, which is a good bank in my opinion. I use insurance company like Allstate and State Farm, which to me are good insurance companies. It's going to be hard for them to finance you or do any business with you with bad credit. So the first thing is get your credit in order. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you want to do like take credit cards and things like that, you have to have a merchant account. In order to have a merchant account, once again, your credit has to be in order. So the first thing is credit in order. Second thing is save. Learn how to save your money, and have a cushion of money on the side in case stuff come up. The third thing is education. Get the education. And when I say education, somewhere geared towards real estate. So it could be a real estate course, real estate class, or real estate institution. I would start there first. And then once you got the fundamentals, you can add on to maybe a coach or Grant Cardone or whoever you may want to get some tidbits from. But that's just that. Just little tidbits, little spice, if you will. But that's what I would advise. Credit, education will be the main two things.
Real stuff. So that brings me into a perfect segue. I'm being signaled that I need to do our real quick promotion, real quick. Hang tight with me. I will be right back after this quick message. Hey, folks, this is Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, and I want to make a quick announcement about the credit, cash, and closing event that I'll be hosting tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m. Click the link in the description of the video that tomorrow night, 7 p.m., we're going to be talking about how to get your credit in order. So that's why, kind of what we're talking about, where you said people should get their credit in order. That's one of the things that I decided later on in my career. Like I, started helping people with their credit before I even looked at my own credit. And I decided later on in my career, so, let me start working on my credit so I can start doing some, scale up my investing. And that's kind of, what I'm going to be talking about on this credit, cash, and closing workshop on tomorrow. I think that's one thing that people don't realize the importance of when they're talking about getting into the business, right? We're talking hundreds of dollars, not even thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars. If you have credit challenges, get your credit in order. I was actually talking to a client earlier. I said, do you know $300 to $500 to maybe even, we'll say $700 could mean the difference between you being able to get up to $100,000 in loans or lines of credit. So people miss out on investing that $300 to $500 and not looking at the potential of what that small investment could potentially get them. Right. And you got $100,000, you can do very well getting started investing in real estate. So that's what we're going to be talking about on that event for tomorrow night. So as you suggest, get your credit in order, go to some classes, and then look at ways to get into the business. As a seasoned investor yourself, the process, and like you mentioned, the Walil Archer strategy. Is there? I'm gonna ask a facetious question, so please bear with me. Is there a shortcut around that? Because the way you describe it, it'll probably take me a whole year, but I need to make money now. What's the shortcut? What's the microwave version of that?
For me, the Walil Archer way, I don't know the shortcut. I can't teach the shortcut. I haven't took the shortcut. Now, contrary, I can say the only shortcut I learned over years was cash is king. So once I was able to pay off everything, all the money coming in is mine. I no longer have the banks that I'm paying. Now, when I'm offering deals, I'm offering cash, as is, where is, no inspections, close in 15 days, and I'm getting more deals done that way. So that's my shortcut. Long term, it took me a long time to get there. But for someone new getting into the business, unfortunately, I don't know no other shortcuts, because you're going to pay. In my opinion, you're going to pay now, you're going to pay later. You can take the shortcut, but you're going to pay somewhere. So you might as well pay now, pace yourself. Yes. Meanwhile, get your credit in order, save some money, still do what you're doing. So if you have a day job, keep your day job. Start saving that money, start getting that credit in order, because your credit's going to mean a lot when you try and get insurance. You buy a house and nobody want to insure the property, then what? Or you got to go to these other insurance companies, and now they want to charge you triple the amount of money. And they only give you fire only. So anything else goes wrong, that's on you, which is almost not even having insurance. So your credit, you got to have that credit, because no one really want to touch somebody. You're a risk. You're high risk. Real estate is already a risky business. Banks really don't really want to really lend you money as it is. And then you got bad credit, good luck.
Real stuff, man. So, and you dropped some major stuff there, man. I just, and then of course, I asked the question being funny about what's the shortcut, because in the world, I mean, like, people want the fast and easy way, but as I've figured things out, you're gonna get fast, you're gonna get two, you're gonna get 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3. It's gonna be fast and easy, but it's gonna be expensive. Or it's gonna be inexpensive and it's gonna take a long time. So in those situations, I mean, that's why I always advocate for education. I mean, just as you mentioned, education. And Cassiana, my sister says you gotta have credit, gotta have that credit. Yes, indeed. And the thing about it is, it's nothing. It's not a big barrier. People want stuff right now, but I mean, the question I often ask is, you plan on being around in 6 months? You plan on being around in a year? Do you plan on being around in the next 2 to 3 years? So if you're planning on being around, and the time is coming anyway, with or without you, the 3-year time period is coming with or without you. In that time period, why not have some things in place to plan towards ultimately where you want to go? So, for example, if you got bad credit today and you plan on being here in 6 months, why not start working on your credit today and see where your credit might be in 6 months from now? Who knows? You might go from a 500 to a 700, or even a 500 to a 600. You're 100 points better than where you were. And that still makes the difference, because there are lenders that will loan to people with 600 credit scores. You see? So if you are in a position, if you're not, you should get in a position, I should say, and manage things properly to where you can make the investment to get your credit in order, so that can help you to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And Cassiana says, ain't nothing fast or easy. Not in the real estate game.
And not in real estate. You want something fast, easy, jump in the stock market or go to the casino. That's it.
The only fast and easy I know. Even that's not that fast and easy, because it's still gonna cost you. You want something fast and easy, go to McDonald's. You might get it fast, you might get it easy, but it ain't gonna always go down easy. But yeah, I mean, those are the types of things that people should be paying attention to, man. If you're gonna be here in that time span anyway, start working on your situation today. Tomorrow at the latest. Give you overnight to think about it. And that's with, whomever. I mean, there's several different resources. And I know people are skeptical about everything. People are generally, we're innately skeptical. But even in the skepticism that we often have, there's still an understanding and there's still a lesson. There's still something you can learn. I'd rather make an investment to learn something than not make an investment and not learn anything. You see what I mean? So the investment, okay, we make a $300 investment. It wasn't the best investment. At least I learned what to watch out for when I do that again. Right? I go by the principle, either I win or I learn, but I never lose. And sometimes, what I experience without having the proper education, as you said earlier, you're going to pay some way. You're going to pay anyway. Right? And not paying that investment for that mentor I had earlier on, or I should have had. I didn't have. I should have had. It cost me. It cost me, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars because I missed out on making a smaller investment. So let's talk about, we talked about real estate the whole time. Of course, it's a real estate show, but I don't want the people to miss what your other gig is. You host a radio show. We didn't even talk about that. You host a radio show, man. We got to talk about the Hot Downtown Radio, man. Tell us what that is, and I know there's opportunities for other people to get involved in that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. I host a radio show called The Real Rap Radio Show. It's on Saturdays from 2 to 4. I started that in 2012. Real estate was so successful, I was bored. So when they invited me on as a guest, I never left.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You said real estate was so successful, you was bored.
Yes.
And I hope I had that problem someday.
I was so successful, I didn't have anything else to do. So it was like, man, I got to find something to do. And with radio, I was able to talk, meet people, hear different mindsets, have different kind of intellectual conversations, and I just stayed on the station. And again, the way I set the real estate up, not to go back to it, but it was really not a full-time job. After a while, I got to 10 to 4. Then I scaled it back to 10 to 2. Then it's like, why are you even going to office? Here's my cell phone number. My cell phone wasn't even ringing.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I got to find something to do.
Wow.
So with the radio show, I pretty much cover a lot of different, it's more so business. And I also have some artists, and I cover a lot of events, and I'll talk about on my radio show. So each week is a different guest, different topic, or I'm talking about different events that I cover throughout Atlanta. And I cover a lot of events in Atlanta. Then I travel a lot, so I cover a lot of events in Miami, Orlando, Philadelphia, and different cities and states.
And you hang out with some big people. You hang out with some big people too. But we would just ease on over that. You hang out with some A-list people,
Yeah, I met some cool people. The thing I love about that, honestly, is I learn a lot from being with them. They down to earth. They'll tell you some of their mistakes. They'll give you some of their experience. They'll share some of their insights. And I'm like, wow, they really said that. It's really behind the scenes. That's why I share a lot of behind the scenes on my social media. I show a lot of behind the scenes because people always see the pretty stuff. They never see the work that's involved. So I ask the person, hey, you cool with this? They like, let it roll. So I show a lot of behind the scenes. And you would think the person, for some reason, we think people just got to the top overnight.
Right.
But they really didn't. And then when you hear their backstory, you be like, wow. And then they volunteering it. They don't have to share it. They can just always talk about the goods part. So yeah, I cover a lot of red carpet events, a lot of celebs. I'm not gonna name drop because sometimes they get people starstruck. So I don't want to.
I do it for you. I'll talk about it. I'll drop the names for you. No, but I gotta say though, just watching what you do as it relates to that, man, it says a lot about your humility. It says a lot about, you as a person. I mean, to continue to be able to be in circles like that and still spend time on my little old real estate show, which I am very grateful for, by the way. I'm very grateful for you being here. And I still see you at even local events that you still shoot for people here locally in Atlanta. Some of our real estate partners who do different events. You still show up and do those events. So it says a lot about your character and the things that you're doing, man, to even help people. So I definitely salute you for that. So let me ask you this. We talked about the radio show. You said the radio show is every Saturday from 12
2
to
to
2.
4. From 2 to 4.
2 to 4. I'm sorry. How do people get a chance to connect and listen to the radio show?
Great question. It's called Downtown Hott Radio. So you can download the mobile app, Downtown Hott Radio. You go to our website, Downtown Hott with 2 T's radio.com. And then we have a call to listen number, 351-999-5225. And any streaming platform that stream internet radio station, it's an internet-based radio station. So it's worldwide. So you can just tune in those waves.
Okay. I'm going to have them. My team, I'm sorry. Make sure I get that information in there so people will have access to that. So and then you download the app to be able to listen to the radio show.
Yep.
Let's talk about your photojournalism. How does you're open for business, right? You're still open for So how do folks, if they want to do an event, you do real estate photos at all?
I do. I shoot all genres of photography. So if it's photography, whether it's real estate listings, whether it's a wedding, family function, I shoot all genres of headshots. I shoot all genres of photography.
Okay. And we're not going to listen. I want to make sure folks understand. You are someone that I want them to see the awards behind you, right? I want to make sure we don't miss that. You are an award-winning photojournalist, right? Don't call it with the popcorn money think you're gonna be able to get. But so how would someone reach out to you if they were interested in something like that?
Yep. It's Walil Archer on all platforms. So if you're on social media, it's Walil Archer, WALIL, Archer, ARCHER. Our website is walilarcher.com. If you want to text us, you can text 215-GO-WALIL, 215-GO-WALIL, which is 215. I forget what the numbers are. 956-2545. There you go. 215-956-2545. So that's the number if they wanted to text or reach out.
Okay, good stuff. And we'll make sure we share that with the audience so they have that information. But listen, I certainly am grateful for you being here today. Thank you for carving out this hour to spend time with me to, share with the audience your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, and the things that you do. I salute you, man. I mean, every time I see you now I know I joke with you every now and then. I mess with you. Because I believe we got a relationship. So don't jump on me if you see me in the street, though.
Hey man, I'm always available. I always appreciate the love. Anything I can do to support, I'm just a call away for you. You know that.
I appreciate it. Any parting words you want to share with the audience, man, about real estate or photojournalism or anything you want to share with them before we jump off?
Yeah, just credit. Just get your credit together and education. Educate yourself. Once you're educated, they can't take it from you. So whomever you are, once you educated, you'll realize when somebody's not telling you the truth. Whether it's an attorney, whether it's your insurance agent, whoever they are, your realtor, whoever it is, once you're educated, you can't go wrong. So educate yourself and get your credit in order and save some money. You got to have that cushion of money saved up because cash is king. When you walk to a deal, you could save, depending on what it is, but you can save 20, 30,000, give or take, if you have cash. You buy it as is. You already know what to look for if you seasoned in it. So you can already save money right there. So the biggest thing is get your credit in order and education. And the rest will fall in place. Always pray. Always, stay prayerful of you, spiritual. And that's the best advice I give anyone.
Absolutely. And that's 100%. That's 100% right there. If that was the only advice you give anybody, man, that would be, very valuable. But listen, again, I thank you for what you do. I salute you, man. You're a humble guy, man. The way that you carry yourself is admirable. It's admirable in so many ways. When I see you, I'm like, man, you always got a smile on your face. You're always in a great mood. I guess if you was getting getting that mailbox money like you getting, you ain't got no reason to be upset. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, salute to Mr. Walil Archer. Go ahead and follow him on all the social media platforms. So Walil Archer on all social media platforms, right? Definitely check out the website and definitely check out Downtown Hott Radio. And I'm going to be tuning in as well. Hopefully I get a chance to be a guest on the show as well. But again, man, I can't say enough great things about you and what you do, and my appreciation for you being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
All right, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. This has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. Don't forget to check me out tomorrow, Thursday evening, 7 p.m. The link to register for the cash, credit, and close is in the description. And I look forward to seeing you all real soon.